reports started trickling out on Thursday, but no names were mentioned. The brutality of the crime was not mentioned. All that was mentioned was that there was a man, Laramie man, found beaten out on the prairie basically. Later on in the evening, they mentioned his name. It was like, that can't. That's not the Matthew Shepard I know. That's not my student. That's not this person who I've been meeting with.
I was in the coffee shop.
Romaine Patterson.
And someone pulled me aside and said, I don't know much, but they say there's been a young man who's been beaten in Laramie. And they said his name was Matthew Shepard. And he said, do you think this could be our Matthew? And I said, well, yeah, it sounds like it could be our Matthew. So I called up my sister Trish, and I said, tell me what you know. I'm just like, I need to know anything you know because I don't know anything.
So I'm talking to my sister on the phone, and that's when the whole story comes up on Channel 5 News, and it's just like, ba-boom.
And the news reports kept rolling in. Young University of Wyoming student. His age, his description. It's like, oh my God.
And I felt sick to my stomach. It's just instantly sick to my stomach. And I had to tell Romaine, yes, it was Matthew. It wasn't Fred.
I'll tell you when it's overwhelming.
Matt Galloway.
Friday morning, I first find out. I go to class, I walk out, boom, there it is, right in the branding iron. So I immediately drive to the nearest newsstand because I want to know more, and I buy a Laramie Rumor. I go home, and before I can even get through the door and open the paper, my boss calls me. He's like,
Did you hear about what happened?
I say, yes.
Was he in the bar Tuesday night?
I go, yes. Yes, he was.
You need to get down here right now. We need to talk about this. We need to discuss what's going on.
By this time, I was starting to get upset. But still, the severity wasn't out there.
It was Thursday afternoon.
Rulon Stacy at Poudre Valley Hospital.
I got a call. We just got a kid in from Wyoming, and it looks like he may be the victim of a hate crime. We have a couple of newspaper reporters here asking questions, and so we agreed that we needed one spokesperson. As CEO, I'll do that, and we'll try and gather all the information that we can.
And then, as I watched the 10 o'clock news that night, when they started speaking about the nature and the seriousness of it.
So I'm on the phone with Nicholson, and he's like,
We need to get down to the arraignment to make sure these guys are in the bar.
so we go to the arraignment.
Our focus today turns to Laramie, Wyoming, and the Albany County Courthouse, where Aaron James McKinney and Russell Arthur Henderson are being charged with the brutal beating of Matthew Shepard, a gay University of Wyoming student.
The arraignment was on Friday, right around lunchtime, and I said, I'm just going. Just took off. It's just down the street. And so I walked a few blocks and I went. Has anybody told you about the arraignment? There were probably about 100 people from town and probably as many news media. A lot more of the details have come out by that point. The fact that the perpetrators were kids themselves, local kids, who everyone who's around here has some relationship to. And what everyone was really, I think, waiting on pins and needles for what would happen when the perpetrators walked in. And what happened? They walk in their complete orange jumpsuits and their shackles, and you could have heard a pin drop. It was incredibly solemn. I mean, lots of people were teary at this point. And then the judge came in and did a reading of evidence that the prosecution has, and it's just a statement of facts. And the reading of the facts was, The essential facts of the case is that the defendants Aaron James McKinney and Russell Arthur Henderson were seen at the Fireside Bar with Matthew Shepard, and after Mr. Shepard confided that he was gay, the two defendants deceived Mr. Shepard into leaving in their vehicle to a remote area. Upon arrival at said area, the two subjects tied their victim to a buck fence, robbed him, tortured him, and beat him. belonging to the victim, Matthew Shepard. The subject took the victim's credit card, wallet containing $20, shoes, other items, and obtained his address to later burglarize his home.
I don't think there was a person left in that courtroom who wasn't crying at the end of it. I mean, it lasted 5 minutes. But it kept on getting more and more horrific, ending with,
Said defendants left the victim begging for his life.
Sergeant Ing.
How could this happen? I think a lot of people just don't understand. And even I don't really understand how someone can do something like that. We have one of the most vocal populations of gay people in the state. And it's pretty much live and let live.
Laramie resident Jeffrey Lockwood.
My secret hope is that they were from somewhere else. That then, of course, you can create a distance. We don't grow kids like that here. Well, it's pretty clear that we do grow kids like that here.
so that was the arraignment. And my response was pretty catatonic. Not sleeping, not eating. Don't leave me alone right now.
More and more details came in about the sheer brutality, motivations, how this happened. And then, quite frankly, the media descended, and there was no time to reflect on it anymore.
Laramie, Wyoming, often known as the Gem City of the Plains, is now at the eye of the storm.
The cowboy state was a redneck and for sure. As a gay college student in Austin, there are in Florida.
People would like to think that what happened to Matthew Shepard was an exception to this rule. However, it's an extreme version of what happens in our Laramie schools on a daily basis.
It's a tough business that Matt Shepard knew, and as his friends know, to be gay in cowboy country.
It was huge. Yeah, it was herds. And we're talking hundreds of reporters, which makes a huge dent in this town's population. There's reporters everywhere, news trucks everywhere on campus, everywhere in the town. And we're not used to that type of attention to begin with. We're not used to that type of exposure.
Tiffany Eggers, local reporter.
These people are predators. Like this one journalist actually caught one of the judges in the bathroom at the urinal and was like asking him questions. So the judge was like, "Excuse me, can I please have some privacy?" And the journalist was offended that he asked for privacy. I mean, this is not how journalism started, like the Gutenberg Press, you know?
I'll tell you what, when hard copy came and taped me, I taped them back at the exact same time. I have everything I ever said on tape. So if they ever try anything funny, they better watch their fucking ass.
Wyoming Governor Jim Geringer, first-term Republican up for re-election.
I am outraged and sickened by this heinous crime on Matthew Shepard. My deepest sympathies go to the family.
Governor, you haven't pushed hate crime legislation in the past.
Well, I encourage the people of Wyoming to stop overreacting and giving one group special power over others. We shall wait and see if this crime was motivated by hate.
You've got the beginning of the news story where they have the graphics in the background. And they've got murder in Wyoming. And Wyoming's dripping red, like it's got blood on it or something. And it's like, what is this? This is sensationalism. And we're here going, wait a minute. We had the guys in jail in less than a day. I think that's pretty damn good.
And for us to be more or less maligned.
Me and Gil and
That we're not a good community, and we are. The majority of people here are good people.
this is a good time for us to explore this.
Bill McKinney, father of one of the accused.
Had this been a heterosexual these two boys decided to take out and rob, this never would have made the national news. Now my son is guilty before he's even had a trial.
Look, I do think that the media has actually made people accountable because it's made people think. Because people were sitting in their homes, like watching TV, listening to CNN and watching Dan Rather and going, Jesus Christ! Well, that's not how it is here. Well, how is it here?
Matthew Shepard, medical update at 3 p.m. Saturday, October 10th.
By this point, I looked out there, and where there had been 2 or 3 reporters, it must have been 10 or 15 still photographers, another 20 or 30 reporters, and 10 video cameras. The parents had just arrived. I had barely introduced myself to them. I looked out there, and I thought, my gosh, what am I going to do? Matthew Shepard was admitted in critical condition approximately 9:15 p.m. October 7th. When he arrived, he was unresponsive and breathing support was being provided. Matthew's major injuries upon arrival consisted of hypothermia and a fracture from behind his head to just in front of the right ear. This has caused bleeding in the brain, as well as pressure on the brain. There were also several lacerations on his head, face, and neck. Matthew's temperature has fluctuated over the last 24 hours, ranging from 98 to 106 degrees. We have had difficulty controlling his temperature. Matthew's parents arrived at 7 p.m. October 9th and are now at his bedside. The following is a statement from them. First of all, we want to thank the American public for their kind thoughts about Matthew and their fond wishes for his speedy recovery. We appreciate your prayers and goodwill, and we know that they are something Matthew will appreciate too. We also have a special request for the members of the media. Matthew is very much in need of his family at this time, and we ask that you respect our privacy as well as Matthew's, so we can concentrate all of our efforts, thoughts, and love on our son. Thank you very much.
Both Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson pled not guilty to charges. Their girlfriends, Chastity Paisley and Kristen Price, also pled not guilty after being charged as accessories after the fact. On our next visit, we spoke with Chief Investigating Officer on the case, Detective Rob Debris of the Albany County Sheriff's Department.
Well, I guess the thing that bothered me the most when we went down to Poudre Valley where Matthew was found, the thing that bothered me the most was just seeing him and touching him. I mean, as a homicide detective, you look at bodies, but this poor boy is sitting here, fighting all his life, trying to make it. I just wanted it so by the book, you know?
I keep seeing the picture in my head when I found him,
Aaron Kreifels.
and it's not pleasant whatsoever. I want to, get it out. And it's kind of unbelievable to me, that I happen to be the one to find him. Because the big question with me is, with my religion, is why did God want me to find him?
I know how to take care of myself, and I was irrational and terrified.
Catherine Connolly.
So what that means is not letting my 12-year-old son walk the streets, seeing a truck do a U-turn, and thinking it's coming after me. having to stop because I am shaking so bad. And in fact, the pickup truck did not come after me, but my reaction was to have my heart in my mouth.
No matter how you may dice it, I did have the opportunity.
Matt Galloway.
If I had amazing hindsight of 2020 to have been able to stop what happened, and I keep thinking to myself, if my head hadn't have been down washing those dishes for those 20 seconds, things I could have done. What the hell was I thinking?
So you do a lot of studying, right? You study and study and study for hours and hours and hours. You talk to your officers again, make sure they understand, talk to your witnesses, and always coming back to, I get this flash of seeing Matthew. I wanted this case so tight that there was no way these guys were going to get away with it.
One of the things that happened when I got to the fence,
Reggie Flutie.
there was such an overwhelming amount of blood, and we tried to wear protective gloves, but we had a really cheap sheriff at the time, and he bought us shape gloves. So you put them on, and they just keep breaking, So you finally just run out of gloves. But your mind says, don't hesitate, That's what your mind's telling you all the time. Don't hesitate. So you try to help Matthew and find an airway, and that's what you do,
The thing I wasn't telling you before is that Reggie is my daughter.
Marge Murray.
And when she first told me she wanted to be a police officer, well, I thought there wasn't a better choice for her. She could handle whatever came her way.
Well, probably a day and a half later, the hospital called me and told me that Matthew had HIV. The doctor said to me, you have had an exposure. You've had a bad exposure. Because, you see, I had been building a lean-to for my llamas, so my hands had a bunch of open cuts on them, so I was kind of screwed, When you think, oh shoot,
Would you like to talk about losing sleep?
So I said to the doctor, okay, what do I do? And the doctor said, get up here. So I got up there, and they started the ATZ drugs immediately.
Now, they told me that's medication. That if it's administered 36 hours after you've been exposed, it can maybe stop your getting the disease.
That is a mean, nasty medicine. Mean. I've lost 10 pounds and a lot of my hair. Yeah.
And quite frankly, I wanted to lash out at somebody. Not at Matthew. Please understand that not one of us was mad at Matthew. But we maybe want to squeeze McKinney's head off. And I think about Henderson and how two absolutely human beings can cause so much grief for so many people. It's been terrible for my whole family, but mostly for her and her kids.
I think it really brought home to my girls what their mom does for a living.
Well, Reggie, you know what I'm going to tell you now.
And my parents, they both said the same damn thing.
You're quitting this damn job.
And it's just a parent thing, because they're terribly proud of you because you do a good job, whether it's handling a drunk or handling a case like this, but they don't want you getting hurt,
Like I said, there's a right way, a wrong way, and then there's Reggie's way.
So finally, I said, oh, for God's sakes, lighten up, Francis!
Oh, you are so stubborn.
And they say I'm stubborn, but I don't believe them. But, I've heard your opinion, so here's mine. I'm 39 years old. What are they gonna do, spank me?
Reggie, don't give me any ideas.
It would look pretty funny, What can they say?
I just hope she doesn't go before me. I just couldn't handle that.
post story, and sent an email to me directly and said,
You and the straight people of Laramie and Wyoming are guilty for the beating of Matthew Shepard, as the Germans who look the other way are guilty for the deaths of the Jews, the gypsies, and the homosexuals. You have taught your straight children to hate their gay and lesbian brothers and sisters, unless and until you acknowledge that Matt Shepard's beating was not just a random occurrence, not just the work of a couple of random crazies. You have Matthew's blood in your hands.
and, well, I just can't begin to tell you what that does to you. And it's like, you can't possibly know what this has done to me. You can't possibly know what I'm thinking and how my family is and what this has done to my community.
The first week alone, vigils for Matthew Shepard were held in Laramie, Denver, Fort Collins, and Colorado Springs. Soon after, in Detroit, Chicago, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Nashville, Minneapolis, and Portland, Maine, among others. In Los Angeles, 5,000 people gathered, and in New York, a political rally ended in civil disobedience and hundreds of arrests. The Poudre Valley Hospital website received almost 1 million visitors, all expressing their sympathy towards Matthew and his recovery. Matthew Shepard Medical Update, 9 a.m. Sunday, October 11th.
As of 9 a.m. today, Matthew Shepard remains in critical condition. The family continues to emphasize that the media respect their privacy. The family also wants to thank the American public for their kind thoughts and concern for Matthew.
There are certain things when I sit in church,
Jedediah Schultz.
and the Reverend will flat out tell you that he doesn't agree with homosexuality. And I don't know, right now I'm going through changes. I'm still learning about myself. And I don't think I know enough about certain things to make a decision that says homosexuality is right. When you can raise a whole life that's wrong. And maybe that's just because I couldn't do it. And speaking in religious terms, I don't think that's how God intended it to happen. But I don't hate homosexuals. I mean, I'm not going to persecute them or anything. Not at all. That's not going to be getting in the way between me and the other person at all.
Well, it's preached in schools that being gay is okay, yada, yada, yada.
Conrad Miller.
And if my kids ever ask me, I'd sit them down and I'd tell them, this is what gay people do. This is what animals do. This is the life. This is the lifestyle. This is what they do. And this is why I believe it's wrong.
There's more gay people around than most people think.
Murdoch Cooper.
And it doesn't bother anybody because most of them that are gay or lesbian, they know damn well who to talk to. If they step out of line, they're asking for it. And some people are saying that he made a pass at them. And I'm not excusing their actions, but it made me feel better to know that it was partially Matthew Shepard's fault, and partially the guys who did it. You know, maybe it's 50-50.
Yes, as a lesbian, I was more concerned about my safety.
Zachy Salmon.
I think we all were. And I think it's because somewhere inside we knew it could happen to us anytime. You know, I mean, I'd be afraid to walk down the street and display any sort of affection for my partner. We don't do that anymore.
Well, there's this whole idea. You leave me alone, I leave you alone.
Jonas Slonaker.
And it's even in some Western literature, you know? Live and let live. And that is such crap. I tell my friends that. Even my gay friends bring it up sometimes. That is such crap. I mean, basically, what it boils down to is if I don't tell you I'm a fag, you're not going to beat the crap out of me. I mean, what's so great about that? That's a great philosophy.
We went to the candle vigil,
Zabeda, Eula.
and it felt so good to be with people who felt like shit. I just kept feeling like I don't deserve to feel that bad, you know? And someone went up there and he said, blah, 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 blah. And then he said, I'm saying it wrong, but basically he said, come on, guys, let's show the world that Laramie is not this kind of a town. But it is this kind of a town. If it wasn't this kind of a town, then why did this happen here? I mean, you know what I mean. Like, that's a lie. Because it happened here. So how could it not be the kind of town where this shit happens? That's like looking at an Escher painting and getting all confused. It's totally just circular logic. How can you even say that? And we need to mourn this. And we need to be sad that we live in a town, a state, a country where shit like this happens. And I'm not going to step away from that and say we need to pretend like this didn't happen. These are people trying to distance themselves from this crime. But we need to own this crime. I feel everyone needs to own it. We are like this. We are like this. We are like this.
I was at the fireside bar one night when I ran into two friends of Aaron McKinney, Shannon and Jen. You guys knew Aaron well, right?
Yeah, we both did. I mean, I thought it was really, really awful when I first found out about Matthew, but I don't know what to think. Like, Aaron was either really fucked up or coming down or what. But Matthew had money. Shit, he had better clothes than I did. He was a little rich bitch.
Shouldn't call him a rich bitch, though. That's not right.
I mean, I'm not saying he was a bad guy either, because he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, said the wrong things. I don't know. There were times where I was at my low, and I was all on meth or whatever, and I thought about stealing, but I never did. Never did. But the point was there. It's easy money.
Aaron's done nothing before. They both have. I remember one night they went up to Cheyenne to, go do it. They came back with $300. I don't think they particularly targeted gay people, but, if the person looked like they had a lot of money, or they could outnumber or overpower them. It was fair game.
Right. But do you think there was any homophobia that was involved in this?
Probably. He probably hated the fact that Matthew was like, the gay people I've seen him interact with, he was fine as long as they didn't hit on him. As long as they didn't bring it up.
As long as they weren't doing it in front of him.
Wait, so do you get the impression that maybe he knew other gay people?
I mean, I'm sure he knew people that are gay because he worked at a KFC, and let me tell you, a couple of people up there were, because I don't know, half the people or something in Laramie are gay.
right now.
Well, I'd ask him if he'd ever smoke any more tweed.
I saw Aaron now. I'd be like, man, why'd you fuck up like that? I just want to make sure he's doing good in the world. Probably this stuff. I just want to, like, hang out with him.
Smoke a ball with him?
I bet he wants to go to real bad.
So you guys both went to Laramie High?
Can't you tell? You're a product of our society.
On a day that is traditionally given to the fortunes of the University of Wyoming football team, these students have to participate in a homecoming that is very different. In participating in a anti-gay hate protest.
University President Philip Dubois.
This was homecoming weekend. There were a lot of people in town, and there's a homecoming parade that was scheduled. And then the students organized to tag on to the back of it. You know, behind the banner supporting Matt, and everybody wearing the armbands the students had created.
I live in the center of town,
Harry Woods.
and my apartment has windows on opposite ends. One goes north and one goes south. And that's exactly the homecoming parade route. Now, on the day of the parade, I had a cast on my leg because of the fall that I had taken. So as much as I really wanted to, I couldn't march with the people walking from after me. So I watched through my window, and it was just, I'm 52 years old and I'm gay. I've lived here a lot, and I've seen a lot of things in my life. And I was very touched by the amount of people marching from after me. About 100 people behind a banner that I created. So the parade goes down to the end of the block to make a U-turn, so I moved to near my apartment to wait for them.
I was right up there in front where they were holding the banner for Matthew Shepard, and let me tell you, I have never had goosebumps longer in my life. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. There were masses of people, families, mothers telling their 6-year-old children to wear armbands, and then mothers explaining to their 6-year-old children why they should then wear these armbands. I mean, it was absolutely one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen.
Sure enough, the parade starts coming down the block, and that's when I noticed the most incredible thing. The tag at the end of the parade had grown at least 5 times. About 500 people marching from after me. 500 people. Can you imagine? The tag at the end was larger than the entire parade. And you know what? I started to cry. Tears were streaming down my face as I thought, thank God that I got to see this in my lifetime. And my second thought was, thank you, Matthew.
I really haven't been all that involved, per se. My husband's a highway patrolman, so that's really the only way that I've known about it. Now, when I first found out, I thought it was just terrible. I can't. Nobody deserves that. I don't care who you are. But the one thing that was not brought out at the same time that that happened, that patrolman was killed. And there was nothing. Nothing. They didn't say anything about the old man that killed him. He was driving down the road, and he shouldn't have been driving, and killed him. And it was just a little piece in the paper. And we lost one of our guys. You know, my husband used to work with him. This man was brand new on the force, and now here's one of ours, and it's just a little piece in the paper. And a lot of it is my feeling that the media is portraying Matthew Shepard as a saint and making him out as a martyr. I don't think he was. I don't think he was that pure. Now, I didn't know him, but there's just so many things that I found out that it's scary. Like about his character and spreading AIDS and things like that. You know, being the type of person that he was. He was just a barfly, you know? And I think he pushed himself around. I think he flaunted it. Everybody's got problems. But why they exemplified him, I don't know. What's the difference if you're gay? A hate crime is a hate crime. If you murder somebody, you hate him. It doesn't matter if you're gay or a prostitute or whatever. I don't understand. I don't understand.
Company member Lee Fondakowski.
This is one of our last days on our second trip to Laramie. Greg and I have been conducting interviews non-stop, and we're exhausted.
We are to meet Father Roger at 7:30 in the morning. I was wishing we could skip it all together, but we have to follow through to the end. So, here we go. 7:30 a.m., 2 queers and a Catholic priest.
Matthew Shepard has served us well. You realize that. He has served us well. And I do not mean to condemn Matthew to perfection, but I cannot think of anyone who has done more for this community than Matthew Shepard. And I'm not going to sit here and say, I was just this bold guy. No fear. I was scared. I was very vocal in this community when this happened. And I thought, you know, should we call the bishop and ask him permission to do the vigil? And I was like, hell no, I'm not going to do that. His permission doesn't make it correct. You realize that. And I'm not knocking bishops, but what is correct is correct. You people are just out here on a search for it. I will do this. I will trust you people that if you write a play of this, that you say it right. Say it correct. I think you have a responsibility to do that. Don't make matters worse. You think violence is what they did to Matthew? They did do violence to Matthew. But, you know, every time that you're called a fag, or you're called a les or whatever.
Or a dyke?
Dyke. Yeah, dyke. Do you realize that is violence? That is the seed of violence. And I would resent it immensely if you use anything I said, you know, to somehow cultivate that kind of violence, even in its smallest form. I would resent it immensely. You need to know that.
Thank you, Father, for saying that.
Just deal with what is true. You know what is true. You need to do your best to say it correct.
Andrew Gomez.
I was in there. I was in jail with that in December. I got thrown in over Christmas. Assault and battery. 2 counts. I don't want to talk about it. But we were sitting there eating our Christmas dinner, trying to eat my stuff in my motherfucking bread, my little roll and whatnot, and I asked him, I was like, hey, homie, tell me something, please. Why did you... Okay. I'm thinking how I worded this. I was like, why did you kill a faggot if you're going to be destined to be a faggot later, you know? I mean, think about it. He's either going to get pumped a lot or he's going to die. So, why would you do that? Think about that. I don't understand that. And you want to know what he told me? And honest to God, this is what he said. He goes, he tried to grab my dick. That's what he said, man. He's dumb dog. He didn't even act like it was nothing. Now, I heard they was auctioning those boys off. Up there, in the Max Square, you know, where the killers are. I heard that when they found out that Adam was coming to prison, they were going to auction those boys off. I wanted, I'll put aside $5 sink 7 cartons of cigarettes. Oh, she knows that's all. I should be scared to go to prison if I was those 2 boys.
Hello?
Reverend,
Yes, hello.
I believe your wife told you a bit about why I'm contacting you.
Yes, she did. Let me tell you, I don't think I want to talk to anyone about any of this incident. I'm somewhat involved, and I just don't think...
Right, I understand, and I don't blame you. You know, I went to your service on Sunday.
You went to services on Sunday?
Yes, I did.
On Sunday?
Yes, this past Sunday.
Did I meet you?
You welcomed me at the beginning, I believe.
I see. Well, let me tell you, I'm not afraid to be controversial or to speak my mind. And that is not necessarily the views of my congregation per se. No, as I said, I am somewhat involved. That the people in this case, well, the girlfriend of the accused, is a member of our congregation. And one of the accused has visited. Now, those 2 people have forfeited their lives. We've been after the 2 I mentioned for ages, trying to get them to live right, to do right. Now, one of those boys is on suicide watch while I am working with him. Until they put him in their chair and turn on the juice, I will work for his salvation. Now, I believe they deserve the death penalty. I will try to deal with them spiritually.
Right, I understand.
Now, as for the victim, while I know that that lifestyle is legal, I have just one thing to say. I hope that Matthew Shepard, as he was lying there tied to that fence, that he had a moment to recall when someone had spoken the word of the Lord, and that before he slipped into a coma, he had a chance to reflect on his lifestyle.
Thank you, Reverend. I appreciate your speaking.
About 11:30 that night, I had just barely gone to bed, and Margot, our chief operating officer, called and said, his blood pressure has started to drop. Well, let's wait and see. She called me about 10 after. He just died. So I quick got dressed and came in. And went into the ICU where the family was. And Judy came up and she put her arms around me. And I put my arms around her. And we just stood there, honestly, for about 10 minutes. Just, because what else do you do? And then we had to sit and talk about things that you just, Dennis, it's now public knowledge. And I'm going to go out there now and tell the whole world that this has happened. Because by this point, it was clear to us that it was the world. It was the whole world. And so Judy told me what she wanted me to say. And I went out there at 4 a.m.
Matthew Shepard, medical update, 4:30 a.m. on Monday, October 12th.
At 12 midnight on Monday, October 12th, Matthew Shepard's blood pressure began to drop. We immediately notified his family, who were already at the hospital. At 12:53 a.m., Matthew Shepard died. His family was at his bedside. The family did release the following statement. The family, again, asked me to express their sincerest gratitude to the entire world for the overwhelming response for their son. The family was grateful that they did not have to make a decision regarding whether or not to continue life support for their son. Like a good son, he was caring to the end and removed guilt or stress from the family. He came into the world premature and left the world premature. And I don't know how I let that happen. I lost it on national television. But you know, we had been up for like 72 hours straight, and gone home and gone to sleep for half an hour, and had to get up and come in. And maybe I was just way, I don't know. But in a moment of complete brain deadness, while I was out there reading that statement, I thought about my own 4 daughters. And go home, hug your kids. And oh, she doesn't have her kid anymore. Oh, and there I am, and I'm thinking, this is so late. And then we started to get people sending us emails and letters, and most of them were just generally very kind. But I did get this one. This guy wrote me and said, "Do you cry like a baby on TV for all of your patients, or just the faggots?" And like I told you before, homosexuality is not a lifestyle with which I agree. But having been thrown into this, I guess I didn't understand the magnitude with which some people hate. And of all the letters that we got, there were maybe 2 or 3 that were like that. Most of them were thank you for your caring and compassion. And Matthew had caring and compassion from the moment he got here.
Yesterday, we told Doc that we'd be coming back for the upcoming trials of Russell Henderson and Aaron McKinney. This is what he had to say.
I'll tell you what, if they put those 2 boys to death, that would defeat everything that Matt would be thinking about on them. Because Matt wouldn't want those 2 to die. He'd want to leave them with hope. H-O-P-E. Just as the whole world hoped that Matt would survive. The whole thing, you see, the whole thing ropes around hope. H-O-P-E.